G'day people and welcome back to another episode of AFL Fantasy Chats with Heff and Checkers. A bit of a mixed week in the AFL fantasy space. I think I've clawed my way back a little bit in the rankings, but Checkers, I think you had a good week as well. Tell us all about it. How'd you go?
I actually went down a little bit in the rankings, just a little bit, which I guess is probably a good thing considering I had so many players out. So last week, I think I had 8 primos. Some of my best primos out as well, all my point of difference players. So I knew I was going to hurt a little bit this week. So I'm down to rank 4, 3, 10. I don't know where you've landed, but we'd be getting closer. I know that much.
Yeah, I think there's about 1,000 spots between us. I'm at 5, 3, 2, 7. So I had an 1882 for the week, and it pushed me up the ranks by about 1,000 spots, I think it was.
Yeah, so I had 1756. So yeah, a little bit off the mark. Had Darcy Cameron as captain, so I guess just probably didn't capitalise. Could have gone Rosie on the VC and got a few extra points there. But yeah, just had the likes of Dunkley, Tom Green, Lockie Ash, and all those sorts out on my bench. Obviously, Bailey Smith was one that everyone would have had, but yeah, Max Holmes, a few uniques that were just, yeah, Josh Dunkley. Bench was looking pretty stacked, but unfortunately they had to buy. But now this week my team is actually complete. I've got no more rookies on field, no more. I've got a couple mid-prices, but I think the mid-prices probably on the up. And I've actually got a dilemma where I've got one too many forwards.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Now I've got Pat Lipinski or Caleb Daniels sitting on the forward bench, so I need to work out what to do there with free up some money and upgrade elsewhere. I don't know, but yeah, I've crunched my sums wrong.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat. It's not to that extent. I've got Kyle Lohman sitting on the bench, but it's like 500k on the bench. But the thing is, like, there's with a few of them, like all the guys on my bench are still going to make me money, and I don't really want to trade any of them out. But I have to make some sort of trade to get Bailey Smith off my bench in the forward line and get him back onto the field somewhere. So like the only place I got room for him really is in the midfield or any one of my other mid forwards, like really. But I have to make a trade in the midfield to to move one of them back to my midfield. And then, yeah, it means I'm just going to have to trade someone that either I don't want to get rid of or trade someone that's not going to get me enough cash to get me to an upgrade. So bit of a tricky week. So I'm glad I'm not the only one in a similar type boat.
There's some sticky situations as well because a few of the guys that I normally would pull the trigger on and trade, like maybe Matt Roberts had a bit of an off week and you could potentially have a case for him to trade, but then his matchup this week really suits. Caleb Daniel been just smacking 70s every week, and I'm like, a good trade, but I'm pretty sure he has the Bulldogs on Thursday night. So
yeah, he did.
Probably a matchup that suits him as well with plenty of kick-ins. And I'm like, geez, all these guys I should probably be trading. I just want to see one more week from. So, yeah, might be one where I play Caleb Daniel off the bench for 1 week. I don't know.
What about Tom McCarthy? This is like my big question of the week. Are you fielding him, or like I'm not sure whether to trade in another primo defender, or can I trust someone like him to keep scoring well back there? What are you doing with him?
He's currently on my bench. I do have Matt Roberts on the field, who's put 2 average scores up since coming back in the side, and Callum Mills maybe taking some of his scoring. I just want to see Roberts one more week. I know Roberts has got potential, so I'll probably play Roberts this week. If he does no good, then I can always just chuck Roberts down to a rookie and play McCarthy on field as of next week if the scoring continues. He's had some okay fixtures for a back pocket as well, like Collingwood and Carlton. He's had it not too hard. I wonder if teams will start to target him a little, or if maybe sometimes your first few games you fight or flight?
Yeah.
And we usually see the rookies fall off after 4 to 5 weeks. They start to like fizzle out a little bit. So I wonder if being mature age mid-season pick up whether he will fizzle out or whether he'll just continue all the way through.
I think a good plan with your team would be to have the emergency on McCarthy on Friday night, and then you can decide what to do with Roberts come Sunday. If McCarthy puts up a big score, then it's probably worth trading him, trading Roberts out, that is. And if not, then it's probably worth rolling Roberts in as well. So do you reckon that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, that is a handy point. When you said you've got Lohman on your bench, I'm also rolling Lohman on the bench. And I'm not afraid to roll a few blokes who are maybe 400 to 500k on the bench for the rest of the season. Laid outs are massive in the back end of the year. We know the last few weeks I'll probably pull the trigger and rest a few, or there'll be some laid outs. And a lot of people don't have money to spend and fix those issues. So There's not as much cash gen in the back 6 weeks of the season. So if you've got some good scoring players on the bench, it can come in handy. You might cop an 80 instead of copping a donut, and that can really put you up, 1,000 ranks. So.
Another thing that's like quite a common strategy this time of year, and sorry, we will get into our pods and our hot takes soon, but another common strategy that people have been running for the last few years are the 6th primo or the 8th primo if you're doing it with a midfielder. What do you think is more important, getting one of your mid prices up, or is it more important to have that extra primo on the bench so you can loophole between them and try to get a second bite at the cherry, so to speak, between your weakest scorers?
Yeah, I still think it's finish your field first. I still think that would be the preference, is make sure you've got at least like mid prices. Maybe people are considering like a Caleb Daniel mid price, and now he's dropped down to that value and things like that. But I'd still consider the primo potential. So as long as you got guys like that in each line, like in that 700k, 800k mark in your D7 or F7 or whatever it is, then worry about that seventh mid. But yeah, I would like to make sure the field's pretty set, because we have seen some pretty nasty rookie scores and nasty, lower price scores where they could get a 30 or something, and that can really hurt. That's a 50-point difference. At least Caleb Daniel's consistently dishing out 70s and 80s. It's not hurting too much.
Yeah, I've got a similar type situation with Ned Long. He's like getting me 80s each week, which is pretty handy.
Yeah.
But, do I keep him there, or do I try to upgrade one of my bench to a proper primo and then have him as a loophole option for those weeks where he does go big, because he will have quite a few Thursday, Friday night early games over the remainder of the season, so it might be handy. It's those little kind of dilemmas, and you won't know where your money's best spent. But anyways, we'll get into the actual crux of the show. Pods of the week. My guy, I'll talk about my guys in a second. I reckon I've talked about him for weeks though, so I'll let you do yours first. Who are you looking at?
Well, I've just got 2 this week. The first one had the bye last week, so a bit hard to gauge the form, but it's Jai Caldwell. I don't know if this is yours or...
This is mine, yeah.
But, yeah, okay. Well, he's expensive as, so he's 1.05 million. So he's at the highest price point he'll be all year, probably around that mark. But 4.7% ownership. I don't know if anyone saw the news, but Saturday morning the Bombers had a training run in their bye week. Darcy Parish did his calf, and I'm trying to think of the players, Mason Redmond and one other player.
Kyle Langford.
Kyle Langford also got hurt. So injuries galore at Essendon. Merritt's been a little bit off lately, so I wonder if Parish out means Merritt bounces back a little bit. Could also be a good one to look at someone like Will Setterfield. But Jai Caldwell's the one who's putting up the most consistent numbers. So he's had 5 games in a row of 100 plus. 3 of those games have been 120 plus. Someone like Setterfield's maybe scored a few 95s to 105s, whereas Caldwell's scoring pattern seems to be 20 to 30 points bit better.
Yeah, Caldwell's going 118 from his last 5. 118 from his last 5 is absolutely massive. So, yeah, he's mine as well. Like, that's the only thing I wanted to add is just the form he's in as well. You're right, but with Merritt potentially coming back into the midfield, but he just gets tagged out of the game wherever he's going at the moment. And with Parish injured, I think there's just... the worst case is there's no change to the last few weeks, I think. And the best case is that Merritt stays out of the midfield and Caldwell gets more responsibility in there. Yeah,
there'd be a good one to keep an eye on, Elijah Sada, to see if he gets a crack in the back half of the year. There are talks that he's going to be asking for a trade, and there's those Essendon mids you probably want to keep a pretty keen eye on now that they're out of finals race. They've got the Parish injury. They're going to have to roll some young guys through, or whether they roll Merritt back through. Merritt's going to be underpriced. But yeah, Jai Caldwell's the picker this week. I went back through his scores. He came back from that injury and had 2 pretty average scores where he didn't get a lot of rotation through the mids. But if you take those 2 games out, he's averaging 117 flat for the whole year. So yeah, 118 over the last 5. Take his 2, comeback games out of it, and yeah, pretty much bang on 100. Probably one of the highest averaging players in the midfield at the moment. Bailey Smith would be the only one to beat him.
Yeah, I've got him on my keeper league team, and strongly considering captaincy this week. But there's just so many good matchups for my team. I don't know if I can actually do it. What's your other player? Because that was my part of the week, so we don't really have to talk about mine. What was the other one?
Yeah, I just had attached to it. Keep an eye on Set. We'll probably talk about them in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Setterfield, Sardis, Merritt, no doubt. But the other one, Doss would absolutely freak for this, but I've got Braden Fiorini on my list. I think it was 98 on the weekend, but he's averaging 91 over the last 3. He's only in 0.17% of teams. Would need... I don't know why I read that out of my notes. He played a little bit of halfback on the weekend, so I was thinking more like a Sam Flanders role that we saw last year, where the halfbacks at Gold Coast rack up a lot of disposals. Bodie Hewlin does it okay. Sam Flanders is someone who's done it really well. But yeah, if Fiorini, I'd have to know the exact heat map stats and everything like that. I don't know what they are. You might have those details, but if he cops a defensive DPP and you pick him up as a 732k mid, it could be one of those ones where you pick him up as your bench player, roll the loophole on it, and then he also becomes a defensive DPP in a few weeks. So I just thought, this could be tasty. But
yeah, I think he was, I don't know. Yeah, he was half. He did get a lot of his touches across the halfback, but he also had his highest percentage of centre bounce attendances for the season as well in this game too. So I think he went to 26% of the centre bounces this week. So it is kind of like the Flanders, like halfback and then forward roll again. But he also lines up on the wing quite a bit. So in the last, I only saw the last quarter of this game, but I remember first centre bounce the last quarter, he was lining up on the wing as well. And then coincidentally, Sam Flanders got his first centre bounce attendance for 3 weeks at that centre bounce as well. So it's kind of interesting because, yeah, like, Sam Flanders looks like in the last few weeks, I know he's still playing that half forward role, but he's kind of pushing into the midfield a lot more. And Fiorini started to get more centre bounce attendances. Like, he didn't have any over his first, 5 weeks here. And then the last 2 weeks, he's just started to get centre bounces again, and he's starting to score a lot better. My concern is that, like, Dimmer Hardwick doesn't, like, he always seems to be the whipping boy. And I could see very soon, because there was a big article last week about Sam Flanders as well, about how he's a different player after the bye. He's recovered from his early season injuries and all that sort of stuff. And I just worry with Fiorini that we will see what he's doing completely drop away and be replaced by Sam Flanders in the second half of the season. That's just my only concern, because I feel like they can kind of do similar things, halfback, midfield, wing type deal, whereas like Flanders has been non-influential at all. And I feel like he's kind of wasted in the forward line. And I don't know, I just feel like with Fiorini being the whipping boy quite often, things might shift quickly with him. That's all.
Yeah, that's fair. He's probably first case for when things are going tough. He's a good sub candidate because he's a bit versatile, has shown he can play wing, midfield, maybe a little bit of half forward. He's a big tackler, and someone who just, they can bring on late in the game to change a game, I guess. He comes on with fresh legs. So when you got so many midfielders at Gold Coast, he's a strong sub candidate. I know Gold Coast got a pretty easy run home. They've got the Essendon double matchup. They've got Carlton. They've got Richmond. So I wonder do they rest anyone like a Took Miller and he gets a good crack? But yeah, it's just the scoring and also just off the halfback flank where I know scoring's been very good for Gold Coast in the past. Could be something to keep an eye on. That's my other ultra pod.
On the flip side then Flanders is probably a good pod consideration as well. Like, I think it's going to be one of those two will be good for the rest of the season, I reckon. And it's kind of just going to be a bit of a flip of the coin. You know, if we could creep inside the mind of Dimmer Hardwick and, you know, work out what he's planning for the rest of the season, it'd tell the story, I think. But yeah, I think they're kind of both players we'll have to monitor over the next few weeks. But Flanders only at 679k as
Very
well.
Similar priced. He's already got the defensive DPP, which is handy. So I guess very similar scores as well, 90 and 88 his last two. So yeah.
Might be a very easy player to go up from might be a very easy player in a week or two to go up from Angus Clark to someone like Sam Flanders to just kind of use as that, you know, sixth premium on your bench to try to get a good score out of. Worst case might make you a bit of cash if his break even stays low. But anyway, let's move on to some hot takes. Hopefully we don't have the same hot take. What's yours this week?
I'll just say congrats on the Rory Laird hot take. He turned up on the weekend, so first week's a tick.
Yeah, we're still at 8 to go.
8 to go, but it was positive signs. So
yeah,
my hot take is Josh Daicos plays against Carlton on Friday night. I know there's a few VC loophole options with the Dogs playing. You could go Tristan Xerri on the Thursday. You could go Nick Daicos. There's going to be a lot of Darcy Cameron. I don't know. There's plenty of options galore, but I think Josh Daicos is one who's going to slip under the radar. So if you've got Josh Daicos, Connor Rozee against Carlton last week, just rebounding off the halfback like he does, just tore up. Sheasels put up a good score against Carlton the other week. And even Tyrell Dewar from West Coast had his rising star breakout game where he's playing on the wings and halfback, had 27 disposals from memory or something as a rookie at West Coast. So I'm thinking Josh Daicos, who's in some pretty red-hot form, playing the halfback role against Carlton. Their forwards are pretty dysfunctional. They don't have Mackay. Kerno's been a bit out of sorts, kicking plenty behind. So, yeah, Josh Daicos is one, I think, if you're going to have a VC loophole that is against the grain of the comp, probably one. Yeah, I think he's going to in for probably a 120 plus. And when there's so many options on Thursday and Friday to VC loophole, I'd love to pick a pod one out.
Yeah, no, I like it. He's actually one of the considerations I'm trading, and I'm kind of at a point where I can't quite get up to the kind of Jai Caldwell range. Like I could perhaps get up to the Marcus Bontempelli kind of range, but I was thinking Daicos might be a good little unique option as well. Given that Carlton are, I think, the 6th easiest team for rebounding defenders to score against, and players generally go around 7-8 points above their average when they play against Carlton as well. And that's kind of for all defenders really, except for key defenders. Key defenders seem to struggle a bit probably on Kerno down there, but that's about it. So it's a pretty good shout, I reckon. And it's someone who's definitely in my trade plans, just depending on how much money I want to spend back there. All right, my hot take for the week. My hot take is I think we're all going to want to trade in Rowan Marshall at some stage over the final few rounds. I feel like Tristan Cherry, who's very highly owned in the competition, I think he's gone 3 scores under 100 now, whereas Rowan Marshall's gone 118 the last 3 from his average. And then looking at his final run home, his last 3 games of the season are Richmond, Essendon, and GWS. Now, GWS might be a bit of a false commodity given that they've been riding a rookie there, but Kieran Briggs hasn't been doing much for the entire season as well. And so currently that's a very easy matchup. But first up this week, he's got Lloyd Meek, who's generally a pretty easy matchup. That's kind of why I'm concerned about Cherry a bit, because Cherry couldn't even put up a good score against him last week. We've got Sydney. Brody Grundy's in red-hot form, so that's hard. But then come against Geelong, who's a very easy matchup as well because they just run Reece Stanley there. Got 2 tough matchups after that, coming up against Max Gawn and Tristan Cherry. But yeah, that run home, I think over the last 3 rounds, he will be the top scorer in the game just about. And it might be just one of the cases where one of the top 100 teams kind of flicks a Cherry or a Gawn across to him just to kind of get a bit of a point of difference. And I think Rowan Marshall might even actually bring it home for a few people. And just looking at his this season, he's been well below his best this season, but he's still averaging 101 for the season. So his floor is still right up there as well. So even if it seems like a bit of a risk, you're still going to get 100 most weeks from him. So that's my hot take. I think Rowan Marshall is going to be on everyone's kind of wish list come the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't know about the easy rucks, but I feel like when they play 2 rucks against him, he finds another gear. He's a big tackler and he tries to beat them around the ground even more because he knows that 2 rucks are going to beat him in the ruck taps. He didn't win the hitouts on the weekend against Darcy and Jackson, but he's maybe it's a thing that he does. I don't know exactly, but when they play the 2 rucks, he gets beaten in the hitout game, but he tries to beat them around the ground, which is great for fantasy. So he'll I'm going to lose the tap, but I'm going to go win 15 possessions on you. So. Had heaps of clearances, had heaps of tackles, almost kicked a goal. I think he had 22 disposals on the weekend. So yeah, someone that's if the ruck contest is hard, he battles hard to go find the footy. I guess there's a few easy ones like Geelong. We just know that's going to be a nice juicy matchup, and a few easy ones around home. I like it. I don't mind it. I'm sort of regretting trading in Darcy Cameron now, seeing the run home that Rowan Marshall has, but. I think they're both going to be pretty unique, good options. So maybe it could be one where if you flick a Gawn off, I don't know if Melbourne maybe could be go real against the grain of the comp. But yeah, interested to see next.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I feel like Gawn is just one of those players that can just has got that huge ceiling. He's probably got multiple 150s left in him, for the rest of the season. Where I think someone like Cherry is probably battling a bit, but. He's also got a really easy run home as well. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it all works out. Just having a look here. Melbourne's run home. Now, it's actually quite tough. It comes up against Rowan Marshall, which is a bit of an easy one for Rucks, but He's got Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn, but the rest are really tough for the way home. So maybe that is a good option to go sideways from Gorn, because I don't see too many other people in the competition backing against Gorn. So yeah, might be a good one to get your ranking up there. I don't mind that play. Anyways, checkers, what are you planning to do with your trades this week?
Well, I need to work out how to delete this extra primo forward off my bench, whether it's Caleb Daniel or whether it's Matt Roberts through some DPP. But I want to get Nick Daicos in my side. I haven't got him. I should have got him last week. I should have gone the upgrade on Ned Long to Nick Daicos. I had the cash to do it, and I just held a week. I thought against West Coast, sometimes your primos don't go too well, so your guns of the comp, they take the foot off the pedal. But Nick he just showing that he's going to storm home to a Brownlow, so I need to get him in. That's my goal of this week.
Just find a way to get Daicos in.
Yeah, just find the way.
Yeah. It seems silly because I'm trading a guy out after 1 week, but I'm not loving the look of him, and I think his price is kind of maxed out. But I'm taking a bit of a gamble. I'm going to play Tom McCarthy on field in place of Callum Mills, whose break-even's up to his average now. He's averaging 83 and his break-even's 81. So I don't see him making any more cash, and I don't see him being a top 6 defender. So I think I'm going to downgrade and then kind of use it as a way to get Bailey Smith back into my midfield via DPP. So I can go down to someone like Jasper Auger, who I think gets a few weeks at Richmond. It's probably not going to be a huge moneymaker for me, but at least it lets me kind of use that DPP to get one of those forward premiums off the bench and into my midfield from there. And then the next best thing I can do is probably go up to someone like Josh Daicos or Marcus Bontempelli by trading another rookie there. So and get that kind of last midfielder on the field that I need. So yeah, not sure what's the best option, whether it's going to be Bontempelli, whether it's going to be Daicos. I've got a feeling it's going to be Daicos just with the spread of midfielders at Western Bulldogs these days. It's hard to see Bont scoring consistently, which sounds crazy because the superstar he is. Whereas someone like Josh Daicos is just going to absolutely rack him up across halfback. We've seen games where opposition don't actually bother sending a player to him, even though he's pretty much running free the entire game. So yeah, I think he might be the play, and he might be a good little unique option against all the people out there that picked up Bont a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I said last week as my hot take. I thought the Sydney and Bulldogs game, maybe not in like actual footy terms, but in fantasy terms, there was a lot of fantasy relevant players playing, and sometimes when you chuck too many fantasy relevant players playing, the spread's got to be, someone's got to miss out and someone's going to go well. So this sort of what's going on at the Bulldogs is Bont's having a couple of good weeks and maybe an off week. Kennedy's having a couple of good ones, maybe an off week. Libba's having a couple of good ones, and it's just this rotation of you're in so many ball users they can't all touch the footy 40 times each week. So I like the Daicos call. I think he's just going to sit in the hole and play. It's one that Kane Corns, if Josh Daicos was playing for North, he'd be his most hated man because he's at Collingwood. No one's talking about it, but he's playing some very nice fantasy-friendly football.
So we're both bringing in a Daicos this week. What's the plural of Daicos? Is it Daikai? I don't really know, but we're bringing in a Daicos this week. But anyway, I think that probably wraps it up, unless there's anything else you want to chat about.
Nah, perfect. It sounds good. Just need to work out who I'm trading, but I'm patiently awaiting the teams. I think your call earlier in the show of waiting to see how McCarthy goes could be a good one, so might actually hold the fire on that.
Yeah, not a bad idea. All right, thank you for watching for another week. We'll be back next week to discuss how our rounds went. Hopefully I've jumped up the rankings and I've overtaken Checkers by then, but I'm not holding my breath now that we're back to full strength. Anyways, we'll talk to you soon. See you later.